So when you don't have a defense that's out there on a regular basis, you're not going three and outs. You're able to make adjustments. You're able to have guys, and we've been going up against, pretty athletic teams. Christian
Mm-hmm.
McCaffrey, who's an athletic running back. They have a couple of guys in Green Bay. You got Lamar Jackson. So we were having success to where their defenses, were getting a little bit tired. We were able to kind of, get some drives going, but their offense was on the field quite a bit, and they got tired. So we were able to sustain some drives and keep the defense fresh. And I think that's something that's been huge. I think we're like sixth in the NFL.
So
We're like
we've
averaging
been.
like 31.
So have we been in command of time possession in every game this season so far?
I think going into the half,
Maybe with the exception of Dallas, maybe.
yeah. So going into the half, I think against the Ravens,
Yeah,
they were leading, and we ended at 31, and they finished at 28.
that's
So we
crazy.
we we passed them in time of possession on Sunday,
Nah,
which
that's a good
was
point.
huge.
That's a good point. I'll tell you this much: our defenses last year, just off the eye test, my biggest worry where the defense was, they're spent, they're tired as hell by the fourth quarter, and do I really know if they're tired? No, but it's kind of just the eye test. I've seen him on the field enough and then that's when I felt like the Giants were giving up the dagger kind of sort of thing for last year. So I like that point. Mike, what do you think is besides coaching? What do you think it's the reason why the Giants are 5-1 right now?
So let's start with clean football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teams not turning the ball over, right? They're not making the mistakes on offense. There's no fumbles, no very low interceptions. If there is an interception, it's on a Hail Mary attempt, which you don't even, the fumble's on a Hail Mary or the interception is at the end of the game. Guy falls down. It happens. It is what it is. So they're playing clean football right now, which is a huge help. Commitment to the game plan. Last week, even though like the pressure was starting to get there when they were trailing and they were trying to get down the field to get back into the game a little bit, they still stuck to the game plan. It was still, they were still handing it off, even though the runs may have only been getting about 2 yards, 2.5 yards. They were still consistently sticking with that run game plan,
Right.
which allowed them to stay balanced and prevented the Ravens from defensively being able to key in on one segment and take it away. Right. So that commitment to the balance of the offense has been huge. And then the other piece to it is defensively, our secondary has not really had to deal with any top flight wide receivers this year so far. So, I think the best receiver that we've played in
CD
the
Lamb.
first 6 weeks is CD Lamb. And quite honestly, Lamb cooked. Lamb was cooking that whole game. Like he had that one big drop where he was open on the deep crosser,
Could have
right?
been a touchdown.
But he still came up big and made that one-handed touchdown grab in the end zone late in the
Right.
game, right? Our secondary has not been challenged yet from a standpoint of having to go up against the better flight of receivers in the league. And going into this week,
And,
you
it
know,
looks like we're not gonna be challenged for a while, if that.
Went up
it's
against
not.
DJ. We went up against DJ Moore too, from
Yeah,
Carolina.
we did, but
Do you think DJ Moore is? What do you think? Would you put him on the top 10 category right now in terms of wide receivers? Zero.
No, but I would put
Okay.
him above CD. I would put him above CD Lamb. I think.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get back to that and debate that in a minute. I would firmly disagree that DJ Moore is better than
What
CeeDee
else?
Lamb,
What else? What else is new?
but that's fine. But that's fine. Maybe in Madden he's better, but I don't know about real life. But
Right.
when we get to it, so I think that's a big part of it. I think Christian Kirk actually presents a lot of problems
Mm-hmm.
for us in the
Sure.
secondary because of his speed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So you might
Marvin
think he's
Jones.
one of the he could be one of the better wide receivers that we've seen so far in the season. Correct.
Yeah, I mean Marvin Jones is just a big, reliable receiver that
Oh,
they
the
have
old man.
there, like that old man on the outside. Zay Jones is a sneaky good receiver, so like they're pretty okay in the core. It's not a great core by any stretch, but they're not terrible either
Right.
for what we're going to face. So I think we're going to see as the season wanes on. When we get to Seattle the week after, where we got DK and Lockett that we're going to probably be playing against at that point, and then you get to Detroit with Detroit's weapons offensively. Like
DK will be the absolute best wide receiver that we've seen so far. Correct?
Yeah, we're
I
going to
think that'll be the
continue
best
to
tandem.
see
Yeah.
this kind of escalate as the year goes on. With some of the opponents that we have coming up later in the year, especially when we get to Minnesota, when we got Jefferson at the end of the year, it's going to be quite a test. So I think right now the secondary's been able to do enough for what's been going on in front of them. Because the Giants are staying balanced, it's forcing other teams, for whatever reason, their coaches just can't stay committed to their own game plans. They start to panic a little bit, and I'm sure Sal will probably agree. Like, you can see it, like the other coaching staffs really start to get tight, and they're like, oh, this game's probably closer than it should be. Let's start airing it out a little bit more. And it kind of like plays into exactly what Wink is setting them up for. He's like baiting them into doing it.
The frustration. Yep.
Because they just can't get anything consistently going. So they just start looking for that big shot and that big play. But I think more so this week, the run game. The run game is going to be the key. We talked about it last week. Giants dead last against the run. They did not play well against the run against Baltimore. Again, like I just said, the coaches didn't stick to that game plan. That for whatever reason they moved away from it.
Right.
And it ended up biting them. Will Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars be content enough to stick to their run game and use Travis Etienne and James Robinson to their advantage?
So let me ask you a question, Mike. Do you think that our run defense is really as bad as it's shown so far, or
It is.
It is. So you think that they are just going to be at the bottom of the league for the rest of the season?
I don't think they'll be there for the rest of the year, but they're definitely getting exposed.
Okay.
Right, and where they're getting exposed is on the edge runs. Right, they're getting exposed on the tosses. They're getting exposed on the outside zones. Teams are not going to run directly into Dexter Lawrence. Right, they're not going to run directly into Leonard Williams. So they're forcing those guys to go lateral,
off tackle type of stuff.
Yeah, and they're allowing these guys to kind of get out on the edge. And those toss plays have really been eating them up pretty good. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out this week.
Do you think Leo's absence has anything to do with it?
Well, I mean, he was back last week and he got ran on all game. So I mean, and we could say he's recovering from an injury, but
he was rusty.
Fully healthy.
Oh yeah, but that one touchdown that they had too, we only had 10 guys on the field.
That's true too.
Maybe that one big chunk. If we had all 11 guys, maybe they don't score that touch. Maybe
that's about.
I don't know.
What was that? At least was at least 20 yards.
I think that was like 25 yards. I think it was like 25, 30 yards.
Yeah. Nah, definitely. Sal, what do you think? Give me other than coaching staff. What's the reason why we're 5-1 right now?
Luck.
I got you.
To be honest. So statistically speaking, we shouldn't be 5-1, right?
Mhm.
But we are. Why? Because we have good coaching. They keep us in the games. We definitely outcoach every team down the stretch. And I think when you have close games, I'm generally a believer that if you have close games, the better coaching staffs tend to win. Down the stretch, they don't make mistakes, like Mike was saying. They make good plays, and they put their players in a position to make good plays. So it's not all luck, but I do think there's a little bit of luck involved that you're in these games when you're statistically getting beaten. Not every game. But we had no business being in the Baltimore game the way they were running. We actually played a lot more of this was like a Patrick Graham fantasy. Bend but don't break.
Bend but don't break that type of defense.
Yeah, I mean, we gave up humongous chunk yards on the ground, in the air. They had long drives, huge chunks, and they would just stall in the red zone. And I think that's a credit to Wink Martindale's defense, where they really tightened up in the red zone and they held them down, kept us in the game. Our offense did nothing the entire game until the fourth quarter for the most part. And I've touched on this a lot of times, and I talked about it before the game. And I said that I think we're going to win the Baltimore game, and I think we're going to win because they're addicted to their two deep shell, irrespective of the circumstance. To their credit, they actually played one deep, single high most of the game
for almost 3 quarters.
3 quarters, they bottled up our run game, which is 90% of our offense. In terms of our game plan. Our pass game feeds off of our run game, right? We have an efficiency pass game, a very highly efficient pass game, but it feeds off of our run game. And if you can't get the run game going, the pass game doesn't do much. And we couldn't do anything. And then in the fourth quarter, they abandoned it. You could watch the tape, and you can just go see they dropped back into their 2 deep shell for no reason. Didn't make any sense to me. They were up 20-10, and what they were doing is working. They went back to this game plan where they opened up the 2 deep shell, and against Cincinnati, they were playing 20 yards off the ball. Against the Giants, I mean, we see this week after week where teams are not respecting our pass game, and they're playing 15 yards, 10 yards down. But still, I mean, a 2 deep safety look is going to open up a lot of run game, and that's what happened. And to Kafka's credit, and Saquon said this after the game, he didn't change the game plan. They just kept running. Just keep going. And they kept pounding the rock. And it opened up the pass game. And to Jones's credit, he's been very efficient, like extremely efficient with opportunities to throw the ball. He's hitting guys open, and he made some big plays. I have to give him credit. He hit some big third down plays in that game, 2 third and longs on that one big drive, and he was otherwise very efficient. But like you stay in the game sometimes because of luck, and then you make the big plays because you're out. Your coaching staff puts you in a position to, and you're a disciplined team, and the other team doesn't. And I mean, to be honest, the play where we got the interception, think about the sequence of events, right? It is 2nd and 5 with about 3 minutes to go. They have a pass out to the flat. I'm forgetting the name of their second tight end who caught it, or maybe
Oliver.
Oliver, right? Was it Oliver who caught that ball? I can't remember.
Yeah, that one. You're talking about the one before the one on the false start?
Yeah. Was it
It was
Oliver?
Oliver. Yeah,
Okay.
it was Oliver.
So Adoree makes a great tackle. He comes from across the field, chases him down, tackles him just short of the sticks. It's 3rd and 1, 3rd and inches really. And Lamar Jackson goes up, and he's just going to quarterback sneak it. And if he crosses that game's over. If he gets that quarterback sneak, because they're going to run the clock down, or it's close to over. Again, the legal formation, right? Again, the legal formation.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's 3rd and 6. Maybe it's the crowd. I don't know. Whatever it was, they were undisciplined. They had the penalty, and then the bad snap. The snap came early before Lamar was ready, and he's just chasing that ball, and he's panicking. And what he should have done was just thrown the ball away, live to fight another day, and he decided to make it
too much.
Yeah, he's made an insane throw. Julian Love did a great job baiting him into that interception, and to his credit, he got Lamar to make the mistake and take it. But just think about the improbable sequence of events that had to happen for us to get a shot at that game, right? And then Love returns the ball to the 14-yard line, right? So it gives us a nothing field, and we punch it in, which is great. But that game, I'll take it, right? It's a lucky win. I mean, I have no shame in saying that. You need lucky wins to have a good season.
Lamar probably had his worst game of the season that game. He went 17 out of 32 in passing. That was an ugly game for Lamar. But you got to give credit to, he was going against, a top 10 defense,
He had a bad game,
Yeah.
and it happens. And his best receivers are not on the field necessarily.
Correct.
Of course, Andrews is the best receiver, but
whatever. He doesn't have wide receivers. He's pretty much, it's a tight end show right now for them. Isaiah Likely, Oliver. It's a tight end show for them, just like this tight end show for us.
Yeah.
You know what though, Sal?
What's up?
You know what though, Sal?
Yep.
The difference being like what you're just saying about the luck being on our side. It's great. I think it also stems from the fact that teams overlook us fairly frequently earlier in the year. Right? They're still trying to get a feel.
Maybe.
And I would suspect that moving forward, we're probably going to see teams have a much different approach. Like when they come in to play the Giants, it's not going to be, oh, it's the Giants, we should just chalk a W on the board. Where
Oh, it's gonna be like, this is we want to make this team. We want to give this team the loss. It goes from, oh, this is gonna be our game that we're gonna go ahead and blow out the Giants, to, oh, we want to be the team to shut up the Giants.
I don't even think it's we're going from the get right game to, we don't want to play this team because we may be more talented on paper, but the way that they play is very challenging for us to find ways to win. So it's a fight for us to actually win those games.
The Giants are such an efficient, well-coached, disciplined team that you have very little margin for error when you play us. That's the reality. We're not the most talented roster, obviously, right? We are deficient in a lot of areas, but this team makes very few mistakes. They're extremely well coached. They're disciplined. They maintain all of their assignments. it makes it really hard in the modern NFL to win when you can't count on the other team making mistakes, right? And I think a lot of the current NFL offenses and teams in general, their whole game plan is predicated on you're going to make a mistake, right? The entire concept of the Vic Fangio cover two shell is we're going to force you into the like just multiple throws over and over and over again. We'll give you that underneath route. Just take it. You're going to make a mistake. We'll bait you into a mistake. You'll throw an INT. That's
And
the
it's,
whole
it's
concept.
not happening for us.
And we're not making mistakes.
Credit to
It's just
Daniel
not
Jones.
happening.
Credit to Daniel
You
Jones
do
on
have-
that one, yeah.
You have to give so I know we always have the Daniel Jones discussion about what he is, what he isn't.
We have a good
but-
one coming up. Trust
Right,
me.
and that's fine. But he is highly efficient right now with the football.
Mhm.
That's not saying he's great. That's not saying he's terrible. He's highly efficient. And an efficient quarterback takes the layups. An efficient quarterback doesn't blow the game up and cost his team the game when the layups are available. And that's sort of elite level game managing. I'm not saying that to knock the guy. I'm just saying it as a reality. It is elite level game managing.
And
It's like
yeah,
Jimmy
he's
G
taking
on
what
steroids.
he's taking
Yeah.
exactly what's given it to him. You know, at the end of the day,
Right,
look,
and so
it's
you-
173 yards. There's nothing
Right.
most you could say. He's taking what
Right.
the defense is giving him, and you know what? If you ask maybe 8 out of 10 QBs in the league, they don't want to take what the defense is giving them. They want to go ahead and make something happen, and that's when you make mistakes. When you make something happen, he's not
Right,
doing
and
that.
and that's coaching, right?
Mhm.
That's coaching. That is Kafka and Dable saying to him, there may be a time and place that we want you to do something else, but right now your job is you're not going to cost us the game. And sometimes we're going to say to you, hey man, drive the ball down, make some plays. And in those handful of drives or handful of plays, you're going to have to make the play or we're going to lose the game. But we're not going to put this game on your shoulder. We're running the ball. We're a running team. I think that's the definition of an efficiency-based offense, and we're doing a good job of that, right? And
Yeah.
we're not putting up 30 points a game. We're putting up 20 to 24. That's good enough with the way our defense is playing. But I think it's a combination of all these things: efficiency, luck, good coaching. So we're 5-1, and I think this can continue against a lot of teams. I think there are a lot of teams that are poorly coached enough where we're going to win games that people think that we shouldn't win, and that's the way I look at it. That's not drawing conclusions about the future.
Right.
But the only conclusion I'm going to draw for that is we have one hell of a coaching staff. They know how to extract what they need to out of their roster. So we should all feel good about that.
So
I think
go ahead.
I
go
think
ahead.
one thing that I see very similar is kind of like how teams were playing the Patriots back when they were very, very good, right? I think teams went into the games overthinking and were trying so hard not to make a mistake that they made a mistake. And the Patriots were always capitalizing on them making mistakes. And the Patriots rarely made mistakes. So, and it's no coincidence, Dabes comes from New England. So he's
Right.
gotten that mantra where he's coached them on situational awareness, putting them in different situations, figuring out what they're going to do. And it shows. It's a similar, as Sal hit it on the head. Like they're not making mistakes. They're capitalizing on the other team making a mistake. They're going to count them making a mistake. And when you make the mistake, we're going to take advantage of it. And that's what they've been doing, and it's been working so far.
So
I see. Let me say this. I
Go
see
ahead.
some comments from like our friend TJ about luck is preparation. I agree with that. When I say
Right.
luck,
right,
I am not minimizing luck.
right.
I believe firmly that a lot of luck is preparation meeting opportunity. I firmly believe
100%.
that.
Yeah.
So, but when I say luck is that you can be really well prepared, and we are. You may not get opportunities to pounce on it unless sometimes you need them given to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens gave us a lot of opportunities in that game in the fourth quarter. And to our credit, we took them and said, thank you very much. We'll take this win. Goodbye. You know, we didn't necessarily have to beat them because we were better. We're not better, honestly. Like, I think 9 out of 10 times we played them, they beat us. But that day, we beat them.
I
And
think we could say that about a lot of teams so far. I mean, not a
Yeah.
lot of teams, but I definitely think we could say that about the Titans. We played Titans 10 times, and they'll probably beat us 9. We beat them that one time. You could say that about the Ravens. Maybe even about Green Bay, to be honest, depending on the day. Maybe not now. We've seen that Aaron Rodgers is kind of maybe not the guy that he was in the past. But two things that I'll touch base on. First of all, I'll give my reason. Kind of we're 5-1. it's not. I'm not gonna mention coaching, but I'm gonna say this: we're starting to see guys who we put the bust label on them, or they're not good enough to be on starters on any other team in the league, and we're getting a lot of contribution for them. One of the guys that I'm gonna mention is Julian Love, who I absolutely was killing throughout before this game. And I give that man a lot of props, man. He has played his ass off. He's played better statistically than Xavier McKinney. And I mean, McKinney was coming out last year out of almost a all pro kind of year last year. Not saying that McKinney's having a bad year. McKinney's being asked to do a lot, and teams are staying away from McKinney. I realize this, but there's just guys that are playing up above their athleticism, above their own X's and O's, and you gotta give credit in the again, without trying to say the coaching staff, gotta give credit to them for putting these guys in the best positions, and these guys are delivering. You gotta execute. They could put you in the best places, but you gotta execute. Now, I wanted to touch two things on what Zero is saying. The first thing he's talking about is the Patriots. Well, if the Patriots, when they were this elite team, they had Tom Brady, and I forgot, there was an interview on ESPN or somewhere. I believe it was like the documentary that Brady had. And somebody was saying, like, the thing about Brady is that he would absolutely take everything that you give him, and he won't try to overstep. He won't try to reach at all. And this is exactly what, at the moment right now, this is what Daniel Jones is doing. Like, if the other team is just going to give me 150 yards, 170 yards, that's exactly what he's taking. He's taking 170 yards. I'll give him this, though. That's always been my problem with him, that I'm like, yo, dude, go ahead and just try a one-on-one. Try a deep ball one-on-one. It doesn't matter if even if it's intercepted, it's a long punt. Well, he's actually taking those shots now, even though they're not getting completed. So it's, to me, we're at a point right now where it's going to be real interesting to see the upcoming weeks with him, where, hey, what happens when those shots actually get completed? Because it's not always going to be incompletes. But can he keep this up? Can he keep this up of, listen, I'm okay. Again, the Giants has scored over 24 points in the last 3 weeks. I mentioned this in the spaces, and they could have scored, you guys pointed out that they could have scored even more if it wasn't for Saquon just pretty much sliding at the 2-yard line. So again, it's going to be really interesting to see what this team is going to do. And now we're 5-1. We're going against the Jaguars. Before we get into the Jaguars, guys, I want to say this. And let's play some what-if scenarios. The Giants win the next 2 games, and we're in the bye. We're in our trade deadline. And I'll go reverse order with you, Sal. Are the Giants shopping, or are the Giants selling at the deadline? And if you think they're not doing anything, okay, Mike, Giants are doing anything if they're 7-1 at the bye week. They're doing anything? Nothing.
No.
0. 7-1 at the trade deadline. Do you think they're doing anything?
I think they're selling.
You think they're selling? Who? Okay, not Shep. Slayton has been in conversations right now. He's come up that he is a possible trade target. Is that one of the guys you think that's gone by the trade deadline?
Slayton or Tony?
Slayton or Tony?
If I had to choose one, it would probably be, they may do Slayton because it frees up cap space now.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're looking for draft capital next year, like going into the offseason, then it would be Tony, because you could probably get a late 2 or a third for Tony potentially right now.
So real quick, just want to give a quick shout out to everybody in the chat. TJ, man, thank you for dropping by, brother. I see that you piecing out for now. I appreciate it, brother, for coming through. Dan, shout out to Manny, one of our co-hosts is on the chat right now, man. Shout out to everybody who's joining us right now on the broadcast. We appreciate y'all. What would you think that we would get right now for Kadarius? Like, and what would you be okay with trading Tony if somebody if a team calls us that they want Kadarius Toney?
Right now, maybe a third. Like maybe a third right now.
You think a team will give a third for Tony right now?
A wide receiver needed team. Maybe like
Green Bay.
I would say Green Bay, Kansas City, Green Bay, but they don't make trades like that.
Mhm.
I think a team that's looking for a wide receiver, that maybe suffered an injury, Arizona potentially, because they just lost Marquise Brown for the year, even though they just traded for Robbie Anderson. You don't know how that's going to go. Somebody you could probably get a third for him right now.
Okay. Um, Sal, Mike, would that be open to trading Tony if the team called?
We're not getting a third for him.
We're not
So the
getting a third
guy-
for him. I don't think so. It's just
so the guy,
we would take a third. You would take it in a heartbeat. I'm assuming.
if I got a top 100 pick for Kadarius Tony today, I would take it.
Top
Um,
100 pick. So top 100
right,
pick
so
would be
the third round,
fourth round.
like- No, third round. Like the top 3 rounds. You're not getting it because there's no history of essentially first round busts getting that kind of return at any position, unfortunately. So, and right now he's whatever you want to call him, injured, whatever. A player who doesn't play is a bust until he's not a
Mhm.
bust, right? And so I don't see what value he has on the open market.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, maybe some team gets desperate and says, "I really, really need a wide receiver." I remember the 2 games this guy like did something in, and I'm going to pay for him. But that's
But
really
if
it. He's-
Robbie Anderson, who's healthy, was a 6th and a 7th, why the hell would I give up a third for?
well, that's what I'm saying. A team
Mhm.
that like teams that are going to do that are teams that are trying to win now. They don't necessarily care if you're on the rookie contract or whatever.
Mhm.
They want a productive wide receiver before they're giving up something. So I don't know if you're getting anything. I think the best bet for Kadarius Tony is he's got to play. He's not going to play till after the deadline has passed. Our deadline, I think, is the deadline's like when are we?
November,
Three weeks ago- 3 weeks
November,
away.
November
Bye week.
1st.
Right,
November
and so
1st.
he's
So
not
he's not
playing.
gonna play, right?
I mean, he might get in the. I don't think he's playing this week.
He's not.
Maybe
He might play the Seattle game.
Right. I think maybe the Seattle game. I think more likely they're going to say they're going to let him rest until after the bye.
I think that's what's gonna happen,
Yep.
to be honest.
And that's 0. I mean, the man has 2 receptions for 0 yards this year going into the trade deadline. What kind of return do you expect? For
Yeah,
that,
somebody
right?
might. I mean, I'm a GM for another team. I'm picking somebody up from the streets, and I'm trying to see if, what's going on in the streets.
If the Jets want to give us, if they
What
wanna
about the
give us
Rams?
Elijah Moore? No, if the Jets want to swap, like they don't want to play Elijah Moore, and they want to give us Elijah Moore for Kadarius Tony because they just won't play him. Okay, like that kind of trade I can see happening, or something like that. But other
I
than
think
that,
the Rams
think
would
our-
go after OBJ first. They'll try to see if they can bring in OBJ
Yeah,
first.
I mean, the
If
only
they
thing is,
can, then
I think-
maybe.
I really think the best thing with Tony is if he ever wants to play and gets on the field and he's able to play physically, play him, and he's a phenomenal trade. He's phenomenal trade bait if he has a good second half, right? Then you got a guy with 2 more years
the
of control,
offseason.
possible 5th-year option, and if he has a good second half and he helps us win games, and Joe Shane is like, okay, he's hitting peak value. I need assets for the draft. And somebody says, okay, I'll give you a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick for the guy. I think that makes more sense than trying to dump him now.
So we're going to right now the Jaguars, and the team. Look, just give you a quick scouting report on the Jaguars. What I see so far, they just look like a better version of us, at least athletically. They run the ball, and they run the ball in reverses. They run the ball in misdirections. They're running the ball outside. They're running the ball inside. It's not just with their main running back. They have 3 running backs. They had Hastings break a crazy run for a touchdown. He's lightning fast. Nobody's gonna catch up to the guy. The guy actually breaks a run. I think they're wide receivers. So they have the wide receivers that they're athletic enough. They're running a lot of crossing routes over there too. I see them pretty much. They're in these bunch formations. They have a lot of RPOs going on, and the RPOs is not like Philadelphia was running them back when they won the Super Bowl with Peterson. It's more now like it's kind of basic stuff like flats. It's guys sitting on like wide receiver screens. Ingram has been involved in a lot of wide receiver screens and stuff like that. To be honest, this is a game where I see it's gonna take our line. This is where you bring in Landon Collins, to be honest, because it's sideline to sideline football that we're gonna need, and we've seen already so far Jalen Smith show that he's capable of go sideline to sideline, but we need even a faster guy next to him or a guy that can match that speed. And I think that's Landon Collins. Not saying that Tate Crowder's not fast, and Tate Crowder I don't think Tate Crowder has lost snaps yet, even though I think that he's going to get faded out as the season continues. On defense, our linebacker, it's going to be the linebacker show. The linebackers can secure tackles. They can make tackles. They're going to make their receptions because their receptions are going to be at the line of scrimmage, 2 or 3 yards above the line of scrimmage. We're going to need our linebackers to ball out. On offense, we can kill them the exact same way that we've been killing everybody, which is the crossing routes. For some reason, they're a heavy blitzing team, but Matt Ryan, I'm sorry, I saw that Matt Ryan game, and Matt Ryan doesn't have an arm. Like, he beat them just throwing crossing routes up the middle of the field. I don't understand how they didn't make the adjustments for that guy, but it was just pretty much 5-yard passes. And then when Matt Ryan would throw the deep balls, it would just be floaters all day. And these wide receivers go like Pierce, who's turning into a gem. I saw this guy on one of the primetime games, and I was like, oh, okay, this guy is a baller. And he's slowly taking into that number 1 role over Pittman, to be honest, in my opinion. But I think that this is a game, honestly, that I'm expecting the Giants. This is my game, in my opinion, that the Giants need to dominate. And so far, the Giants haven't dominated any game. They've shown that they just don't get it right in the first half. But I'll start with you, Zero. What do you see in this game against the Jaguars? What are your keys to this game?
They have to do well against the run. You pointed out, they do well with running the football. They did a phenomenal job last week against Indianapolis. So we have to try to control the run game. And I think a similar game plan for this week needs to be similar game plan we had the first 2 weeks, is control the run game, control the line of scrimmage, and force Trevor Lawrence to try to make decisions. And right now he's been lacking of that. He's turning the ball over. He fumbled 4 times against the Eagles. He threw 2 interceptions last week. I think he's got 4 or 5 on the year already. He's not really making smart decisions when he needs to, when he gets flustered. So I think you let Leo, you let Dex control Jalen, control the middle of the field, control the run game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Aziz is going to be playing or not, but send KT, send Ward, send O'Shane, and let them get after him. And the other thing too is that their offensive line allowed Trevor to get sacked 4 times last week, and Shaq Leonard, I don't think played, and he's probably their best pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they got Kwity Paye, and they've got Armstead there, but I think that Armstead is a better interior lineman than
it was interior.
I think Dexter.
Yeah.
I think that Lawrence is better than Eric Armstead right now. I think he's playing better than Eric Armstead.
Right.
And they need to just get after Trevor Lawrence and force him to make bad decisions. And I think we need to get another turnover. We need to get more fumble, interception. We need to take advantage of that. I think KG's going to have like 2 or 3 sacks in this game.
I definitely agree. I don't know about Tibbs, but I'll definitely say that the inside, and this is where I saw a lot of the sacks given up Lawrence on that Colts game. It was interior linemen, or it was at least stunts towards the inside. So it was his pocket breaking inside, and he just didn't know what to do. He just pretty much panicked at that. So I like that, man. I like the interior of our defense coming in big. Mike, what's good with you? What do you see in this game? Just keys to this game, bro.
So my concern with Jacksonville is that they're going to run a heavy amount of wide receiver screens in addition to just running the ball directly at us, right? That's our game plan offensively, is to just wear a team out, right? Athletically, they are better on the defensive side of the ball.
I would say both sides.
Than what we are.
Mm-hmm.
So the concern is going to be, how disciplined are we going to stay? Like you're talking about Tibbs getting a bunch of sacks. I think there's going to be more batted ball opportunities than there will be sacks in this game.
I like that too. I
I don't see them being able to get to him quickly enough, because I think Peterson is going to adjust quickly to getting the ball out of his hands as quick as possible, right? And they've got the playmakers at the skill positions that can make guys miss, have the speed to kind of take advantage there, right? So I'd be a little concerned. I'd be a little bit concerned about that. I think the key for us to finding a way to win the game ultimately is just going to come down to, do we not make mistakes? Like the Giants do not, they are not in a position as a team right now where they can overcome mistakes. So if they make a mistake, it is like, for us, it's like someone else making three, right? Like it's a monumental thing if this team makes a mistake. They have to, for us to win these games that we won the last couple of weeks, it had to be perfect football and then a perfect storm of other events that resulted in us winning those games. We didn't just go outright and just beat on people and win those games, right? We're not beating people the way Buffalo is beating people, where they're just stomping people out, right? Like these are games where we're meticulous, we're efficient, to what Sal said before. They're hyper efficient, and they're not making the mistakes that will cost them the game, right? They have to continue that, right? So how much longer, how sustainable is that, right? So Jacksonville has warts, right? They're not a perfect team by any stretch. But I think the fact that the line has shifted to where it is settled now on 3 in favor in Jacksonville is simply because the Jags are the home team. So if we were on a neutral site, it'd be a pick 'em. If the Giants were home, I think the Giants would be favored by 3. I
Just
think
to back
that's
up,
where we're at right now.
just to back up what you're saying, Mike, two things. Trevor Lawrence doesn't get sacked. He's one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league. He's top 10 in least sacks. And to back up the reason why he's not getting sacked, it's because Doug Peterson in the RPO system, they just have him throwing the ball. He's one of the fastest guys to get rid of the ball right now, which is crazy because last year he was one of the worst. He's getting rid of the ball at 263, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th in the league in terms of so he's just getting the ball out of his hands. Who's with him in that same category? He's in the category of Cooper Rush, Aaron Rodgers, and Tom Brady, and guys that are getting rid of the ball quick.
What I'm sure Sal's going to mention in a minute, right? As we talk about the coaching staff ad nauseum,
Mm-hmm.
right? The difference in this game that will give the Giants an opportunity to win the game is the fact that Lawrence in his second year is still learning the way NFL defenses operate, right? And throw things at him. So with Wink being there on the defensive side, with him being a coach for as long as he's been, and with his ability to move things and take things away and
So
piece
show
things
him something
together as
that's
the
not
game
there.
wears on, I think by the fourth quarter, you're likely going to, again, you're going to see Lawrence is going to get things thrown at him that he's not used to, right? Or the things that were working for him that were his go-to earlier in the game are going to be completely taken away by the fourth quarter, right?
Right.
Because Wink will make the adjustments and completely take it away. And it could force them late in the game for them to be the one that makes the mistake, right? The one thing the Giants just can't have happen, we've gotten away with coming back from 10 the last couple of weeks. I don't know if they come back from 14, right? Like they can't afford for a team to get up 2 touchdowns on them. You know, once a team is up by more than 10, I would have a concern. So they need to make sure that the defense is not going to give up those big plays, and especially in the run game where Jacksonville has been absolutely explosive in the run game. If we give up big plays in the run game, we're going to have a very difficult time winning this game.
Sal, go ahead, Tom. Give me some keys to the game, in your opinion.
Yeah, so I mean, in the running game, I think one thing we have to really be careful of is that where they thrive in the running game. By the way, pardon my boxes. My whole house is under construction.
Don't worry about it, brother. We can't even see
living the
that.
dream. I'm living the dream right now. So, in the running game, where they get success is the pin pull concept. For those of you who are familiar, they have their interior linemen pin down their interior defensive tackles, and they usually bring a guard or the center on a pull concept to get out to the second level. And they open up a lot of blocks that way, and they run just off tackle. They have a lot of explosive plays doing that over and over again. They're really good at this. Doug Peterson is very good at scheming this. What's our biggest problem on the run game is giving up pin pull concept explosive play runs. And the reason for that is we tend to run a lot of bunch formation defensive tackles inside. We bunch them up. We're trying to create mismatches where Dexter Lawrence can have just, an ability to get one-on-one with a center or a guard, and there's not a lot of guards and centers who can handle Dexter Lawrence one-on-one in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to put, Big Cat next to him, or Nick Williams, or whoever next to him in a bunch formation, and they're kind of crowding the inside of the line. If you go back and watch the all-22s, we run a lot of formations where we're crowding the inside of the line, and then we have we kind of leave two gaps and have an edge.
I mentioned this in the last podcast, how we're overloading one side of the line.
And that's Wing Martindale, right? He overloads to create. He wants to create mismatches where there are guys who are basically wasted blockers, right? He wants to have his offensive lineman with nobody to block, and then have overloads on the other side. That's great for getting pressure. It is going to put a lot of pressure on your first line of defense
on the run side, on the weak side. Yep, absolutely, 100%.
And what that depends on, I used to joke like Wink doesn't care about middle linebackers, and Trey always gives me a hard time about that. But you do need linebackers, right? You need your second level defenders to have gap discipline, and to know that if there's a pin pull concept and they're attacking one of those gaps, and they've got an offensive tackle, they got
to shed the block.
If somebody's got to shed the block, they've got to maintain gap discipline and keep a run at 4 yards and not let it get to 25 yards, right? We're really bad at that. Our linebackers are not good at this. They
100%.
Tay Crowder is like the worst.
Tay Crowder.
And we play him every week. Jalen Smith is better. Jalen Smith is definitely a more intelligent linebacker, more experienced. He maintains more gap discipline. He's a powerful downhill runner and blocker and tackler, so that helps a little. But there's a big weakness, right? So I agree.
I agree.
You need Landon Collins in this game. If he's the Landon Collins that we saw even in Washington last year, that's a huge upgrade, because he's not going to lose gap discipline. He's going to come downhill and thump and punish a running back trying to get through that, that open B gap.
Right.
So that's where we have a big weakness. I'd like to see Landon Collins in there.
Right.
This was supposed to be where Darian Beavers was our stud.
Would have been shining.
Right? And we just, he got hurt.
Right.
So that's our biggest problem in the running game. Their passing game is, if you look at advanced stats, we love going through that stuff. Remarkably similar numbers between Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence. I mean,
absolutely,
almost identical advanced stat numbers. So I'll go through a few of them with you just to give you an idea.
Air yards was the one that stuck to the average intended air yards were the one that stuck to me right now.
That's exactly right. So I think one of there's efficiency stats, which things like CPOE, completion percentage over expectation. And things like that tell you that, hey, the guy's throwing he's making his throws and he's accurate and hitting his receivers. Daniel Jones is one of the best in the NFL this year at CPOE. He's really done a good job of sticking good throws when he should, right? That's what I mean by efficiency. Where he's not good, and it's not necessarily. It's just how they use him, because I think that's where they feel his strengths are. Is he doesn't throw the ball with a lot of air yards underneath, right?
Right.
He throws. His intended air yards is like 6 yards, and Trevor, which is not very high, and his completed air yards is just about 4 yards, which is
correct,
not very high.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence, very similar, and I think this is Doug Peterson. Like Mike was saying, this is Doug Peterson saying, Trevor Lawrence, you're basically a rookie to me. I'm gonna like lean you into the NFL. I'm gonna take away a lot of your mistakes from year one where you were really poorly coached. I'm gonna teach you how to take the layups.
I'm gonna develop you.
I'm gonna develop you. You're not throwing deep balls as much as you probably did at Clemson, or as much as you want to. You've got to learn how to take the layups first. This is the proper way to coach a quarterback, right?
100% agree.
You teach them how to game manage first. You teach them how to learn to take what's given. But what that leads to is good efficiency stats and low air yards, because you don't want them airing it out constantly. You don't want them beating you. Daniel Jones and Trevor Lawrence, very similar in efficiency stats. Where Daniel Jones is better is that he has better CPOE. Trevor Lawrence does not have that yet. He's not as accurate as Daniel Jones. Trevor Lawrence also does make bigger throws than Daniel Jones, so that affects that also. But in general,
Yeah,
will-
but
you will
it's
see
not even
very
that
similar-
big of a difference to the point where you
No.
should be in the same level as Daniel Jones.
You're gonna see these guys game manage.
It's
golf.
gonna
I
be
mean,
really fun to see because yo, I was saying this all week in the spaces, and I'm glad that you brought up. And I'm sorry for interrupting you, Sal, but I'm glad you brought up the analytics behind him because I wasn't even looking at that. I was just looking at tape, and I'm like, yo, this guy reminds me of Daniel Jones so much. It's Daniel Jones 2.0 when I'm looking at right now, and I'm looking at the short passes. I'm looking at RPOs. But what I'm also looking at, it's things like he's holding on to the ball in situations where they shouldn't hold on to the ball. He's
So,
not getting
yeah.
away from the sacks when he should get away from the sacks. He's
Well,
doing, I'll tell you this much, he's doing that a little bit better than Jones in my opinion. But the completion percentage, again, that's on Jones, and Jones is blowing him out of the water in that aspect.
So he does where Lawrence is definitely a lot better than Jones is his time to throw, right?
Mhm.
He does not hold on the ball. He's at 2.6 seconds.
Correct.
Jones is still over 3 seconds. He still holds that little, you know, Dan Schneider mentions a lot. He does that little, you know, tap the baby before he throws the ball a lot.
Right.
People don't think about it too much, but that's a half a second, right? And that's all it takes sometimes in the NFL for a DB to read your throw and take advantage of you.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't happened much yet, right? But it is if you're looking for a big red flag, like this is a danger zone for Daniel Jones and going into the rest of the season, it's his time to throw is still low. And as defenses learn what our offense is doing, you're going to see more guys jump routes, right? And that's always a risk. He's got to get faster. Lawrence is faster than him, but Jones is about as efficient. He's definitely a little bit more accurate. I think you're going to see very similar passing game offenses. Even the running game, they're very similar. But I think we have a big glaring weakness in that we need to stop those pinpull concept runs, because if I'm Doug Peterson, that's how I'm establishing control of this game. I'm doing those concepts and I'm getting chunk yards until the Giants linebackers prove to me that they can stop it and I can't get yardage out of it. If we do stop it, and I think we will actually, so we'll get to predictions whenever you want, Tony. But
Right. We'll do it after this.
yeah, but I do think that if Landon Collins plays, we'll do this and we'll stop it. I think you're going to see very similar game plans, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of run styles, same kind of passing offense. And I'm interested to see what the analytics look like after the game. But going into it, these are almost like mirror image offenses.
Who's gonna do better? The same exact pretty much game plan going on. I agree with you 100% on that. Before we get into game predictions, kind of want to just talk to you guys something that Rob and Mike, we were talking about in kind of like before the show started, and it's pretty much on. And remind me real quick because it was really freaking interesting. I just kind of not sure if it's exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about Daniel Jones, and we were talking about keeping him next year, and we were kind of saying the contract or why we wouldn't keep him or something like that. And Mike, I'll go to you. We were talking about. I would say that we would sign Daniel Jones, and if we like, why can't we give him like a 10-year contract, $10 million deal if we were to sign him kind of next year or something like that?
Because it's backup money. So, being realistic,
He wouldn't settle for backup money.
Not just that, but like we throw things out there, like, well, we'll be the team that gives him an opportunity to be the starter, right?
Right.
Like that kind of gets thrown out there, right? Like he'll get the opportunity to be the starter. Here's the problem with that: if he's going to be the starter, he's going to want starter money, right? Like there's no. If you're him, you just got turned down, right? So think about this for a second. Put yourself in Daniel Jones' shoes, right? And
Right.
Rob, you can do the same thing. You earned your keep this year. Let's say everything continues and he's playing exceptional football.
Gets us to the
And
NFC
they-
Championship.
Whatever it is.
Right.
And now they're gonna say that he earned another contract, right?
Right.
So if I earned another contract,
It has to be
why,
the same level as
why
my
in
fifth-year
God's green
option.
earth would I take anything less than the $25 million you took away from me by not picking up my option?
That makes sense.
Why would I do it? I wouldn't, right? Second, if I play that well and you don't want to pay me that money,
Somebody will.
there is definitely going to be a team somewhere else desperate enough to pay me that money. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to get paid. Washington could pay him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Washington could be a team.
Maybe
that
out of
could pay
spite.
him. The Colts could be a team that could pay him if
Right.
they move on from Matt Ryan.
Which
Just basically
it looks like it. Yeah.
a younger version, right now of,
Mhm.
for a game managing position. So New Orleans could be that team. Like there'll be plenty of teams. The Saints in particular, because the Saints have no first round pick. Okay, and the
Mhm.
Saints are in a really bad spot. Right, so that's another option that's kind of like lying out there, right? So there will be teams that will bid on him in the market, where you're not going to get a situation where it was like Jameis Winston goes 30 for 30, right, and then gets
$1
released,
million.
signs as a backup, and then ends up being there at the time that the best quarterback the franchise has had retires,
Right.
and they've got no plan, but he also has no suitors because he was a backup the year before,
And he
so
got
no
hurt.
one's
I think it was.
right, and nobody's clamoring for him to get paid starter money.
Mhm.
So he takes the whatever deal that he's going to get, and he's grateful for it. Blah blah blah, and off we go. Right. So financially, it's not going to make any sense for them to be able to retain Jones, barring them just giving him an extension that's long enough where they're going to be able to limit his cap hit so that they can continue to build up the roster. But then you're talking about the GM and the head coach are now tied to
To
his
this guy.
performance
Right.
moving forward. They're basically saying, you're our guy, right? You're the guy. You're the guy that we're going to put our careers on the line with. You're that guy,
Right.
right? I don't know if that's something that we should expect as fans, barring, and I said this before the year, he had to look like a league MVP.
Right.
Doesn't mean he's got to win the MVP.
Right.
He's got to play at a caliber of a level that
Where
he
you're
would
like,
be
damn, he's gonna leave you saying, damn.
the MVP.
Right.
I don't think that even with as efficient as he's been
Right.
the last 6 weeks, that he looks like an MVP. And there was a post Lawrence Tynes had this morning that he put up on Twitter that broke down the statistics. His stats this year are worse, actually, than what they were last year, minus the interceptions, right? He's got 3 less interceptions on the year this year than last year. And last year, the team was 1-5. And this year, the team is 5-1 through the same point in the season.
That's crazy.
And-
I didn't see that.
And the crazy part about that is the biggest difference is that during the first 6 weeks last year, the Giants' defense allowed 29 points per game.
Right.
Through the first 6 weeks this year, the defense has allowed 18.8 points per game,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the Giants' offense is roughly it was like 2.5 points better than where it was the year prior.
Right.
So with as efficient as it's been and the scheming and everything else, the offense is only 2.5 points better. The reason the Giants are winning games right now
Right.
is because the defense is far exceeding any level of play that they had in the last 2 years at any point under Patrick Graham. It is light years ahead of where they are right now. So when you're
By the way,
looking
the
at this-
Giants were 15.2 last year in points per game, and this year they're in a 21. 21.2.
And this was through the first 6 weeks, but remember Jones got hurt, and then everything went to
Got
so
it,
the
got
numbers a little skewed. So I'm not going to put that on him for those numbers.
Got it.
But ultimately, what we're looking at here is you're looking at a GM and a coach that are not going to get lost in the hype of what's going on right now.
Mhm.
Right? Daniel is good for what the team is right now. Right? For what they're trying to accomplish right now, he's good enough for right now. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be good enough for the long-term future of what Shane and Dable's vision is of the franchise down the road, right? And I think we just got to let the season play itself out. We'll see where it goes, right? He's looked better. He's played better. The scheme has been better.
Right.
And even the guys on Talking Giants mentioned it earlier today, same thing, right? It was Bobby Skinner said the same thing, and Justin said the same thing. It was he looks as a better version of himself, but he's still performing roughly the same way he's always performed. There's been no difference in his game. There's not been an elevation in his game. There's just been a better schematic put with him to maximize what he does well and limit what he doesn't. But that doesn't mean that he's going to all of a sudden make this leap to be this phenomenal quarterback, which I haven't seen that yet in the first 6 weeks. That hasn't happened.
Now, Rob, I'll go to you now. And to your credit, Rob, you have said this multiple times on the spaces, and we hold spaces almost every day. So you said that you think that DJ is going to be a victim of circumstance. It's going to be because of the money that they didn't offer him, the $25 million, that he possibly might not be here next year. And I'll go to you on that. Like, how do you think that that's going to play out in the offseason? And let's say, for example, like I'll give you the same example. We make it all the way to the NFC Championship, man, and then we make it with DJ. DJ keeps putting up this same type of pace where just the numbers aren't there, but we're still winning games. What happens then?
I think it's gonna be, like Mike said, you got to see how he finishes out statistically.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple of things that would probably weigh in a little bit more than the statistics is how the locker room is behind him.
Okay.
Right now, like after the game, Wan'Dale Robinson looking for him. That was the first guy that he was going after.
Right.
I think if he's earned a lot of the respect of the guys in the locker room and they can sense that the team is rallying behind him, that would make it a little bit more difficult to not bring him back and just turn it over to a guy like Tyrod who hasn't been on the field battling with them. Not saying that they don't support Tyrod or wouldn't support Tyrod, but he obviously hasn't been playing, and there was a reason why they let go of Tyrod in Buffalo was because, he didn't meet what they were looking for as far as like their quarterback. I think that Daniel offers more than Tyrod does from a quarterback standpoint.
Okay.
But is Daniel the quarterback that they need or want? Nobody knows. I mean, we don't know what he's going to be. But I think in your example, if they make it to the NFC Championship game, it just makes it a little bit more of a difficult decision for them. I do feel like at the end of the day, he's going to be a victim of circumstance. And, listen, he was dealt a bad hand. The ownership, the GM, the coach, it didn't work good for him. And unfortunately, his development, went downhill for it. The best thing that I said this, probably about a month ago, is the best thing for him is to learn from Brian Daboll and from Mike Kafka, raise up his self-confidence as far as who he is as a player, as a quarterback, to make him feel like he belongs in the National Football League, and let him take that, to wherever he goes, whether that's into next year with the Giants or whether that's onto another organization. And another thing that I feel like will also play a part is what free agent quarterbacks will be available next year, where teams are going to be drafting, what teams are going to be looking for quarterbacks. I agree with Mike. I don't think that he would potentially take less than what his fifth-year option would be. So do you say, hey, let's run it back for one more year? They offer him a $25 million contract. They try to make it as comparable for them and for him as possible.
Because the Giants are looking for a quarterback next season. They only have Taylor in the contract right now.
Exactly. So do you bring him back and you give him the 1-year deal, and then you take your first round pick and you go get a lockdown corner that's coming out of college? Do you take your second round pick and go after a wide receiver or an interior lineman? Do you beef up the line, or not the line, but do you beef up the team a little bit throughout the draft? And then next year, you say, okay, now we're going to go and we're going to get our guy. And you take your 2024 assets, maybe you take your 2025 assets, and you go after the quarterback that's coming out next year's draft, which is, from what I've heard and what I've read, are some pretty good names, just as good as the names that are coming out, if not that are this year, if not better.
Wow.
And who knows, if AR stays back a year and comes out and maybe he gets, some more tutelage and improves even more, he could become, a top pick next year in the draft.
Who are you talking about?
AR.
Oh, Anthony Richardson. Okay.
Anthony Richardson. If he stays back, so that's something that they could do. If they could get average or slightly above average gameplay to sustain the offense, that way they can focus on other areas. They may use him as a bridge and then bring in the guy that they want. And then, maybe turn it over to Davis Webb and they make Davis Webb, a backup, or they go after a veteran in free agency, like somebody like that, like a Mitch Trubisky, or if he's available, or somebody that they're familiar with, they could do that. Will it happen? I don't think so, but we'll find out what happens at the end of the year.
Sal, there's a lot of seasons to play out, correct? We know this, but the Giants are right now just the trajectory is just going up right now. Honestly speaking, one of the things that I've said it was that the Giants are going to be good this year, but in large part is to obviously, and we said this 100 times, it's the coaching staff, but it's also the schedule that we have. We have one of the easiest schedules in the league, and so far it's playing out to the Giants, and it's exceeding everybody's expectations. Let's say the Giants are drafting one of the top four. They're one of the top four, top five teams in the bottom of the draft. That you want to say, so they're making it deep into the playoffs. What does that do for the Giants? And what does that do for Daniel Jones in the offseason?
Doesn't do anything. I mean, I don't think a good general manager is going to base his decision on an expiring quarterback rookie contract on where he's drafting.
What would you like to see, though? That's a situation.
That's what happens with that. When you do that, you get Blake Bortles, you get Ryan Tannehill.
And you sink for your next season.
There is a large body of evidence that half-assing your quarterback decision is never good for your team. There's just I understand that people like to, and this has been the big discussion today about, maybe we can offer him 1 year or 2 years. There are a lot of reasons why that's historically a bad idea and why it probably doesn't work under the cap. I made a couple of posts about it today. I can run through them right now real quick. Number one, historically, the quarterbacks that you are not kind of sold on as being franchise guys,
but you give them the extension,
but you want to keep them because you're afraid that you might get a little worse if you lose Ryan Tannehill or if you lose Blake Bortles. Your chances are you're probably catching them at their peak, to be totally honest. Okay, and you're not going to see them rise above that, right? And guess what? At their peak, they're probably not good enough to get you over the top or get you in actual Super Bowl contention.
Right.
Playoffs, but they're probably not going to be able to go into a game against Josh Allen and win that game, right? Or Patrick Mahomes and win the game. And believe it or not, that's the bar. People say, "Oh, well, you can't compare it to them." I'm not comparing the quarterbacks to those two. I'm saying you need to be good enough to have your team able to get in those games and have a shot to win. And unfortunately, these guys don't. Number one, that's the issue. That's a big problem. From a cap perspective, the reason you want to know if your guy's a real franchise guy is because if you look at the contracts given to franchise quarterbacks, they're not 2-year deals. They're not 3-year deals. They're 6-year deals, 10-year deals. Why do you think they do that? Because they have to guarantee them a lot of money, and they draw that cap number out over several years.
Yeah.
And they usually they don't necessarily backload those deals, but they sort of midload them. Okay, so like when Josh Allen signed his $240 million deal with 100 and whatever million guaranteed, his first year cap hit, which is actually, I think, was it last year or this year? Last year, it was $16 million. Nothing.
Very friendly.
Next 2 years, $40 million, which sounds like a lot. It is a lot. It's not a lot when you're that kind of quarterback. Then it peaks at 50, and then it comes down, and then there's not a lot of dead cap. That you have to draw it out over 10 years because you're confident. This is my guy. This is my decade guy. I can commit money to this person. I can draw the guaranteed money over 10 years. That gives me spending flexibility to keep building a roster around this person for the majority of his contract to be in competition. If you're front loading that money because you have to front load it, right? If you're getting a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal, there is no backloading it.
That makes sense.
You're taking on the full cap hit right away. So guess what? Your somewhat limited quarterback now has less resources than Josh Allen does to build a roster around him. Okay, so then what? Okay, let's say you did it. Then what? 2 years down the line, what are you doing with that guy then? What's your plan for your team? You haven't been able to add the free agents you wanted to. You haven't gotten over the top. And now you're looking for a rookie quarterback? Or are you going to pay that guy big money now? Because the chances are because of the contract you gave him, you did not put yourself in a position to win. You probably didn't win a Super Bowl. You probably didn't get to a Super Bowl. You're probably not even in competition for one. What are you doing exactly? What's your long-term game plan by offering?
Amazing. That's amazing.
There's none. There's zero, and teams do it. I'm telling you, teams do it. Bad organizations do it. Joe Shane is not a dumb GM. He's not a bad
No,
GM. He
not
did
at
not
all.
come here to follow the Indianapolis Colts playbook. He did not come here to follow the Tennessee Titan playbook.
So
or the
far, he hasn't
Washington
shown us
D.C.
anything that he's on that type of time.
He is extremely disciplined.
Right.
He has given out one contract since coming here. One. Mark Lewinsky. One contract. Every other contract has been a vet minimum deal. Just think about that for a second. All the players we've seen come and go, nobody has gotten more than a vet minimum deal other than Mark Lewinsky. This is an extremely disciplined man. So to me, there's no in-between answer here. It would be absolutely general manager malpractice to say, I'm not sure, so I'm going to do a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal. No. You are either damn sure that this is your guy and you're going to give him a 6-year deal or a 7-year deal, draw out the cap and say, I don't care what anybody thinks. This is my quarterback.
This is
my
amazing.
quarterback,
This is
and
the nail
I'm
in the
banking
coffin,
my
to be
career.
honest. This is so good.
Right. I'm banking my career on this guy. Daniel Jones, you're so freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in you so much that the locker room, like Rob said, they're lining up and saying, you better not get rid of this guy. He's going to win a Super Bowl for us. We all believe he's going to be that guy, right? That's the bar. That is the bar. If he hits that and Joe Shane says, I'm banking my career on this, he's going to give him a 6-year deal. He's not going to give him a 1-year deal, right? Or you say, you're a good quarterback, Daniel. You've
That's
done
so true.
everything we've asked you to do. You've done everything for us, but here's the reality. We have $54 million in cap space. We're going to cut Kenny Golladay and designate him a post-June 1st cut. That'll
Right.
get us up to 68 million in cap space. We're going to spend 10 of that on our draft class. We're down to 58 million in cap space, right? We're going to have to extend Xavier McKinney, who is entering his 4th year as a 2nd-round player, does not have the ability to get a
The
5th
round
year,
option.
right? He has a $2 million salary next year. He's going to, a top 10 safety, and he's a top 10 safety. He's looking at a $15 million salary. Even if you draw it out over 3 years, his cap hit's going to be in the territory of $10 million, okay? We've got to add in another, $8 million there. We're down to
Sign
$50
Dexter
million,
Lawrence.
right?
Dexter
We've got
Lawrence, yep.
Dexter Lawrence is in his final year. Now, we may not, now that's a guaranteed money next year. So they don't necessarily have to do anything with
And
that
they
next
probably
year. But we
won't.
have to pay him for the future, right?
Right.
Andrew Thomas is represented by Rock Nation. He is probably going to go into the offseason as a top 3 offensive tackle.
He's
top
going to
3
get
left
paid
tackle,
like the best
right?
tackle.
You know what those guys get paid? 3 to 4 years, up to 5 years, $23 million a year. He's guaranteed.
If they extend Andrew, right, his new contract would not take place until after they exercise his 5th-year option, correct? If they did that.
It depends, Rob, on how they want to do it. If they want to draw it out,
Because if
like
they
that,
do it
you get
earlier, then
his
they
signing
wouldn't be
bonus will.
affected. Yeah.
But a fragment of a signing bonus and his roster bonus will. So you're probably going to actually add cap numbers there, right? Guess what else you have to do? This offense runs on Saquon Barkley. Let's not forget our
franchise tag
best
him.
player. You have to, at the minimum, you have to franchise this man. There's another $12 million. What do you
By the
down to
way,
now?
I don't think
$30
Jones
million?
plays on the franchise tag.
Right, you're like $30-something million on Saquon Barkley, right? What else do you have to do?
Yeah, it would be $30 million.
You need about at least $10 million
What's
of
the-
operating capital, right?
What's
You
the
need 10
transition tag cost?
You're not going to transition tag him. It's a little bit less. It's not enough to not get compensation. So you're going to give him the 12 and a half.
Still be
million
more than the
negotiated.
No, I mean like, would they franchise tag Saquon and transition tag
No,
Jones?
Dan,
No,
I
a lot
agree
of-
with you. It's going to be
no,
crazy
no.
this offseason.
Yeah, let me finish this and I'll explain why not. So you're down to like in the 30s now, right? After Saquon, Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney, Dexter Lawrence, your draft class, you're in the 30s now. What do teams want
You
as
still haven't
operating
even hit
income?
free agency.
What do teams want as operating income? Just basic money to operate during the season. At
I think it's
least
12.
10 to 12 million, right?
Right.
Look at what Joe Shane is having to do because he didn't have that. He had to add void years to Leonard Williams.
So we
now
don't
you're
have
down
a
to
lot of
20
cap
million.
space, man. I
Right.
thought we had a lot of
You're
cap
at-
space.
You are at $20 million, 20 to 25 million. You haven't signed a free agent.
You haven't signed a
you
fucking
haven't
free
brought in
agent.
Julian Love. You haven't added in an offensive lineman. You haven't done any of the other stuff. You are gonna be at about 20-ish million or less in operating capital. Where are you paying Daniel Jones in this?
Shit.
Right?
No.
It's not. So is it possible? Sure, anything is possible. But why would you do this?
Yeah.
What's the point of it? Why would you do it? Right? Either he is your franchise. Either this guy put this on his back and we go on a glorious fucking Super Bowl run, right? Either he does that and every man lines up like it's the end of the movie Rudy, and is like, no, he's playing. He's my quarterback. Right? Either that happens. He's like, whatever. I gotta give this guy his 5-6 year deal. Or you say, thank you, Daniel. You've done a great job. You're gonna get paid.
You're gonna get paid
You're gonna
somewhere
get
else.
paid. The Indianapolis Colts have $25 million in cap space, right? And they are gonna pay.
Yo,
you that
Jim,
money.
Jim,
they're
you
gonna
want, here's your
clear.
QB right here, Jim.
Right, they're gonna clear another $20 million, and they're gonna pay. You're gonna get paid. By the way, the Saints have negative $65 million, so I don't think they can pay Daniel.
Right.
But the point is, but who knows what they'll do. But the point is, some team is gonna offer Daniel Jones money, which he will deserve, and good for him. This is a professional business. They pay to get played, right?
Yeah. He's
I
in his
don't
last year.
think
He's
it-
in his proven year, and he's proven into the league that he could play.
Right.
He could be a starter somewhere. Right.
To me, I don't think it's gonna be us. The only way it's us is if he literally develops into that superstar level franchise quarterback,
Right.
and takes us on a run where we just find him indispensable for the next 5 to 6 years.
That's so crazy.
What's this $25 million TV bonus that everybody's talking about that's going to hit? Is that even guaranteed? Like,
No.
what's the
And
what is
it's
it?
already being factored in. I know a lot of people in the spaces talk about it, but that's being anticipated as the cap going up next year into the $220 million range.
So based on cap projections, really it's 2024. And the Giants right now would have a massive boost. In
It's like
salary
90.
cap.
It's like $90 million or something like that, right?
No, it's 180 million. Or something. Yeah.
It's actually 175 million due to
Yeah.
the reduction in players that would be on the roster. So you got to figure after guys get signed, you're probably looking at somewhere around 110 million dollars in available space going into that year. So with some of the guys that Sal mentioned, right? Like, so if Andrew Thomas is finishing as a top 3 left tackle, he's going to get paid as much, if not the same, as what Trent Williams is getting paid right now. Trent
Yeah.
He
Williams
probably
is
would get paid
34.
more.
He has to
He'd
get
He's
paid
right.
more.
more.
So think about this though. So Trent Williams is getting $29 million a year against the salary cap, right?
Yeah.
That's what that player is going to cost.
Was that his first year too, Mike? Was he making 29 his first year, or was it
No,
like
he
team?
he got paid. Oh well, that's his second big contract that he
No,
got.
the second big contract. But the point.
So like,
point
but like Sal was saying,
A
like
better comp, Tony, is Laramie Tunsil, who's on his first big contract, and I think he's making an average annual value of like $23 million a year.
he's third. He's third on the list.
But are these
Yeah.
guys also like
Trent
tackles?
Williams, Bakhtiari,
Yeah, they're
and
left
then
tackle.
Tunsil.
Tackles are making like quarterback money, right?
Wasn't Whitworth making like 40 million?
At the end, he might have been, but like
Yeah,
on
maybe-
average annual value.
The
Yeah.
other thing to what Sal's point was, when he mentioned about like Josh Allen and like salary.
That's what
structure,
I'm
right,
saying. Are they
structuring
doing
it out.
QB friendly? Are they doing left tackle friendly deals?
Because the other thing that happened with Allen, right? So they extended Allen early,
Right.
right? So they extended him early. Allen's cap hit last year was
What
$10 million.
10 and then 16
His
this
cap
year.
hit this year.
16.
This year.
So
is
they didn't
$16
do
million.
his 5th-year option. They just extended him. They didn't even
They
give
just
him.
extended him after year 3. They said, "No, this is the guy."
So they
we're rolling
got
with
him before he even blew up. So he cost them less than he would if they would have signed him a year afterwards.
right, because they forecasted what
They
he
saw
was
him.
projected to be,
Right.
right. So the thing with that though is that Allen this year is costing Buffalo 16 million against the cap.
Right.
Now next year,
He's going to
next
cost
year,
40.
Allen's number jumps to 36 million.
Okay.
Right. So that's a $20 million gap. So being realistic,
The window closes at that point.
Buffalo has to win the Super Bowl
Yeah.
this season because there will be players on their roster
That's going to be
they
gone.
will not be able to
sign.
retain
Right.
the following year.
So Tremaine
right?
is guaranteed gone.
But when you have a quarterback of that caliber, even when you lose players at other positions,
You could
your
do
team
more
can-
with less.
Case in point, Kansas City this year.
Right.
Kansas City, they lost Tariq Hill. Kansas City's still running away. They're still in first place in the AFC West.
This is
They
cap
went toe-to-toe with
education,
Buffalo.
guys.
They're right there. These guys are right there where they're competing with one another, right? And then the teams will make moves as they see fit, right? You're seeing Kansas City made cap space available because they made an adjustment to Travis Kelce's contract.
Yeah, I just saw
Why?
that.
Because they're
They're
looking at
looking
trading
for they want OBJ or some shit like that.
either OBJ, but the rumor is also they're looking at trading for CMC. Like
Mhm.
they're giving themselves options
Mm-hmm.
so that they've already gone up against Buffalo. And
They're all in this year. Buffalo, they have to be.
Oh yeah, no. And listen, I think this season is going to be. I think the storyline for us as New York
Wow.
Giants fans is going to be the Giants have found themselves a coach, and we feel good about where the team is going into the future. I think for the storyline of just the NFL, I think it's Buffalo from day one. They're going to run through the regular season. I think they're going to probably lose 2 games the whole regular. I think they're going to go 15-2. They're going to host the AFC Championship game in Buffalo, probably against Kansas City. It's going to be snowing like a bitch up there. They're going to steamroll Kansas City in that game, and they're going to march.
That's
their
why
ass
they
right
got
to
Von
the
Miller.
Bowl and
They
walk
got
out.
they got Von Miller so that they could beat Patrick Mahomes. That's why they got Von Miller.
That team is going to go in and walk. It's going to be the most non-dramatic football season that we've had in a while. It literally is. It's Buffalo and nobody else. It is them. That's it. It's them.
I said this jokingly, of course. Can you imagine
If it's the Bills
if
and
it's
us,
Buffalo and then the Giants in the Super Bowl?
we were living 1990 all over again.
Can you
1991?
imagine
Scott
Dave's
Norwood's not
versus
here to go
Josh,
wide right.
teacher versus protege? Can you imagine it? Like, I was joking about it. but,
Kevin
like,
Garnett, anything
can
is
you
possible.
fucking imagine if
Everything
that
is
fucking
possible.
happens? Like, 'cause
Yo,
you
listen,
said
the
it, Mike,
NFC,
like, there's
the
really, like,
NFC
when
is
you
weak
look at the
enough, bro. The
NFC,
NFC is weak enough that
what
we can
do
win in
you-
any given Sunday. There's not one team in the NFC, even if it's the Rams.
No team.
We're not
in
we're
the
not going to be
NFC
afraid of
right
them.
now is like, if we got into the postseason right now,
It's any team can win.
no team really scares me
No,
in the NFC.
I
right
get
now.
it. We're not a competent team in terms of offense. I get all that, but at the end of the day, listen, it's gonna be a long time till the Giants are really, in my opinion, like I'm gonna go. Oh, I'm not picking the Giants this week. It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take to the next maybe
I would say
the Cowboys
24.
game. Maybe the first time we play the Eagles. So it's just how the
I
season is
just want a
playing.
friendly reminder. I want a friendly reminder, right? We talked about the schedule, right, Antonio? You mentioned it earlier,
Right,
right? You talked about what we're playing on the schedule, right?
right.
And how the schedule
Next season is not gonna be an easy
So
season.
I just want to circle through this. So next season, you're playing the AFC East.
Yep.
Like, we're back to that 4-year stretch. So you're talking about
okay.
Miami,
Buffalo,
New England,
Miami,
the
Jets.
and Buffalo, and those are 4 teams right now that are all doing this.
Yep.
All right. New England's the one that's kind of hazy, but you still can't count out Belichick from anything because he's an exceptional coach. But when you look at the rest of the schedule for this
But
year,
then the random games are also going to be against teams that are going to be good.
right, and
'Cause
the,
we're
the,
good.
The thing is that the likelihood is no matter what we do this year, next year,
It's going to
Be
be the
better.
whether it's
opposite.
Jones or a rookie,
It's going to be the
there's
opposite.
going to be some level of regression.
Yeah.
So if I know the
I called that.
regression is coming,
Yep.
and financially it's in the better interest for me to get a rookie and put him in there and develop
It
him
would be
with
PR
Jones
hell
being
if you
played.
have Jones next year and the team goes bottom. Like
And
that
you
would be
paid
also PR hell. And you
you paid
paid
him.
him. That would
Yeah.
be
Now you
PR
got a
hell.
problem.
So you also
Question,
got to think
so-
about that.
So, question. So, somebody said today in the space, they were like, they're not like right now. None of the rookie quarterbacks are like really blowing them away, like,
That's
or they're
nice.
not really, where they're not really like performing. Do you guys like feel that way right now, where there's not one that's like jumping off the charts, where they're like if it ended right now, like the season ended right now, like, is anybody blowing you away at the
Yeah, so
quarterback
this-
position?
I mean, I'll answer that because I think Tony had asked me, what do you do about the quarterback if you're drafting late? And I said, I mean, I wanted to go into the cap stuff because I don't think that I don't think where we draft should affect the Jones decision for the reasons I already said.
Right.
But that's true. This quarterback comment comes up every year.
It does.
Quarterbacks in college are not finished products. They're the most finished product ever the 2 most finished products that we ever saw coming out of college.
I wonder if it was one of the guys
were
that I
Peyton
like.
Manning and Andrew Luck, right?
Okay.
The third most finished product was Trevor Lawrence, who is
I
now,
loved Joe Burrow when I saw it at college. I was like, holy
but Joe
shit.
Burrow, but Joe Burrow was the 29th ranked quarterback going into his final year at LSU before he blew up in college football preseason rankings. He
Right.
rose up the rankings, right? So right now, are there finished products? There's no such thing. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are clearly like the upper echelon quarterbacks in the class.
And I know you're gonna touch base on this, Sal, so I'm gonna even throw it right now. Randy right now just said, "Don't you guys think that Dable could get the most out of any other quarterback?
Yes.
That can
So-
what he's doing, Jones."
So here's what I think is going to happen. Let's just assume that Jones plays like this the rest of the, which is good.
Right.
But maybe Joe Shane says we're not gonna keep you. You go your way, whatever.
I think you
And they're
today
drafting.
sealed like that conversation. Like it's not possible.
And as much as I want to believe we're drafting 28th, I think it's more likely we're drafting 18th.
Okay.
Just I think law of averages, I think we're going to land in that territory. But let's just say we're somewhere in the late teens or whatever.
Right.
This quarterback class is full of really good, high-end talent, projectable type players. Lots of them. For those of us who are following this class, right? And I think on the upper level are going to be the guys taken who I think teams think are more like NFL ready right now, as is always the case, right? So your top three in some order are going to be Levis, Young, and Stroud. Number 4 taken at this point is probably going to be somebody like Hendon Hooker, right? Who's an older prospect. He's 20. He's going to be 25 years old, but he's probably gonna win the Heisman Trophy.
He's
the way
polished
right?
as hell, though.
And he, if those who watch college football, he just beat Alabama like on his own. He was incredible, right? So you can see a team that needs a quarterback that says, "I think I can win in 1 or 2 years taking this guy," right? Then you get into what if he declares the guys like Anthony Richardson, and then you get even further, and you see other guys who may or may not declare, like Cam Ward. You have the kid Michael Penix out of the University of Washington, who's a really good prospect. He's had injury concerns. These are projectable, high-end talent guys who, with the right coach, could become really, really good NFL quarterbacks. And I do think what we're likely to do is swing on upside, right? I think Joe Shane and Brian Dable are going to want to swing on upside. And where we're likely to be drafting, we're going to be swinging on upside. And I do think that that's going to – I just have a feeling that the projectable –
You don't think that they move up. You don't think they move up. You think they draft –
They might, because they did in Buffalo, right? They targeted Josh Allen, but that was at a time, Rob, where the projectable traits were not as highly valued, right? And I think that things have changed a little bit, so they might move up. There also weren't a lot of guys like Josh Allen back then, right? There was Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson in that draft, nobody else who was anywhere near that level of talent, and that's played out, right? There are more guys, more high-level athletes who are playing the quarterback position who are coming out now. You're definitely seeing that. So I think they're going to get their hands on a projectable quarterback in the teens. That's my guess.
And the combine is going to make everybody fall in love with somebody.
You know how it is. It all goes all over the place. But I do think,
all that shit,
yeah. Now, if they fall in love with CJ Stroud and they want to go get CJ Stroud, they're going to have to trade a lot to go get him. They could probably do what they got to do to go get them, right? If that's what they want.
Mhm.
You never cheap out on the quarterback. Just like you don't cheap out on the contract for the quarterback, you don't cheap out on your quest for the college.
On the way to get him.
Right. So I think that I wouldn't be worried about this. I think enjoy the season, see what Daniel Jones does, right? See how we win, see what he is at the end of the season. And if he has convinced his teammates and his coaches and his general manager that he's a franchise quarterback,
you got to give him the long haul.
then you treat him like a franchise quarterback is my point, right?
Mhm.
If he hasn't, probably moving on. And you're going to draft somebody is my guess.
There's no toe in the water after this season.
There's no
it's either
2-year
you're all-
deals.
You're basically
Either all in or all out.
Yep.
DJ's getting a 6-year deal or he's walking, basically. at the end of the
Yeah.
season.
That's basically my theory, that he's getting at least a 5-year deal or he's walking.
And listen, the theory is okay. If you want to say that's your theory, but there was a lot of convincing facts in it and examples that, to be honest, I mean, even if you saying this on the spaces, now it's like, I guess tomorrow on.
Chat breakdown,
Right?
You know,
Right? I'm
know,
like, dude, like,
bro.
there's no way that I'm going into like tomorrow, and I'm like, yo, there's no chance. Like, yo, this guy has to now go ahead and freaking kill it now, kill it.
I'm not a capologist. I'm just going through the math of it, right?
Nah,
I don't
you
think
you and Mike did a really good job. This has been And
Yeah.
this episode has been really good.
By the way, I could be wrong, right? Like
Right.
they could go the Indianapolis route. We don't know what they're gonna do.
We're putting the faith on Dable. We're putting this faith on Shane that he actually knows what the
just
hell
don't
he's
think
doing.
that-
Right.
I don't think.
Listen,
anything
I
about
don't
this
think
is-
I don't, and I agree with you 100% because listen, it's funny, but last offseason or this offseason that just happened with Shane, it everything. Me and Manny were in the podcast, and shout out to Manny, we're pretty much hitting 100. Almost, we were almost batting 800 if you want to think about baseball terms. And shout out to the Yankees in the playoffs. But everything that Shane was doing, we was even predicting it, or stop, like we was even predicting it, or we was even saying like, hey, this is what he should do, and this is exactly where he went. Like the guys that was going to cut. So it's like I think that common sense is back in the GM room for the New York Giants. I don't think that he's going to hit us with a curveball.
I think if Dave Gettleman was here right now, he'd be doing everything possible to go all in on this season after a 5-1 start. He'd be looking at
100%.
Trade
every
deadline.
draft pick, every future pick to get guys in here to say we're going on a run. Daniel Jones is going to take us to the promised land. He'd be going all in like no tomorrow on everything, and he'd burn it to the ground. And then you know what? You'll end up with a year where maybe they get just close
Mm-hmm.
after all of that and they miss. And then the next year it just completely bottoms out and you're going, how did we get to 2-14? How did we get to 2-15? What happened to this team? Look where we were the year before. It happens in this league all the time where you get those teams that make the playoffs, that they have a good year because they got a down schedule. Things broke right for them. They get in, they win a game, or they play a team close, and then the next year everybody's like, oh, this team's going to turn the corner, and then they completely flatline, and everybody's going, how did we get them wrong, right? Like, it happens all the time, right? So, I think it's going to be an interesting play out for how this team is going to be built moving forward. It's to our benefit that there's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft coming out, with the year that we're having. To give them the opportunity.
Sorry, just got breaking news.
Oh.
Ian Rappaport just posted the Panthers are trading Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers.
No way. Really?
I thought
Yes.
that was a possibility.
To the 49ers?
Yes. Just got
That means,
posted.
that means Mitchell has got to be hurt really bad. I don't expect he's going to
You
be
know,
back.
Mitchell's gone for the year. I think for the most, but that's got to be.
Wow. That is crazy.
That just got
And
posted.
that I will tell you is the definition of San Francisco throwing their chips in the table and saying the NFC is shit and we're going all in.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
we've been to a Super Bowl.
They went from trading Jimmy, right?
That's what I was thinking right now.
To nobody buying him, to being like, all right, I guess we'll keep you, but Trey's our guy.
And
Dude,
we're
you're
all
gonna
in
ride
with
the
you.
field."
Say this, though.
Breaks his ankle. Jimmy, take us back, please, Jimmy. Take us back. I'll get you McCaffrey. Take us.
well, I think the 49ers are the best team in the NFC, and I think they were the best team in the NFC before this trade. And I think they're clearly like the best team in the NFC now. Like I know
I
their
think-
record doesn't say that,
But
Bro,
they are.
think
loaded.
about this right now. You've got Debo and Christian McCaffrey.
I get it, but that's the thing. Okay,
That's
so when
nasty.
Debo is in the backfield, you're gonna put McCaffrey as a wide receiver. You're not gonna put both of them at running back in the backfield. I mean, because that's not.
They're
But think
winning.
of-
They're
I want you to
winning
think
that
about something
division.
crazy
They're
right now.
winning. They're winning that division.
The running system that the 49ers run,
Mm-hmm.
that is the
Is-
Mike Shanahan system,
He's
Right,
going to flourish.
the best running system
right,
ever created in the NFL.
right,
okay?
right.
That zone running
That
scheme
zone run,
is
right.
by far.
No, I
so
get
you
you.
are now taking a player of McCaffrey's caliber
And you put him in the
and
backfield,
putting
right?
him with a line that is hyper athletic,
Right.
that runs a zone scheme that you're going to allow this kid to pick holes.
We're gonna see the
and make
best
moves.
McCaffrey we've ever seen.
And I'm going to be clear about this. This is a move that's made because John Lynch's job is on the line. Because they traded 3 ones to get Trey Lance in here.
What do you give?
Lance is
What
Lance
do you
is
think
hurt.
they're giving Carolina for McCaffrey? They haven't
Yeah,
announced
probably
it yet.
should.
it's got to
I
be
don't-
the 2.
I don't think it's been. It hasn't been.
It hasn't been announced. It says in exchange for draft picks.
So I bet you they got like a second and a fourth or something like
Oh,
that.
he's
You know,
second.
probably-
and maybe
Yeah, I mean,
a conditional or whatever.
But
yeah,
But the
they got
point being on this is that
That's insane.
If you're Lynch and Shanahan, where you just spent 3 ones to get Jimmy G's replacement, right? and that guy doesn't play his rookie year, and he gets hurt this year after being given the job, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking at the landscape of the NFC, and you're going,
Wow.
you know what?
F
These
it.
teams are pretty fucking bad, and we're like, we could probably get back to another Super Bowl with Jimmy G right now if we just had a little bit more.
So they're doing
they
the
go and
opposite of us so
now-
far.
And it's possible now that you'll see the 49ers represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. It's very possible
Mm-hmm.
that could happen.
They're going to
at
win
this
that
point.
division. They're going to win
With
that
what it is.
division.
Oh, they're going to run away with the division now.
They're going to win the
Literally,
NFC.
I don't even think it's close.
They're going to win the NFC. I mean, I think they're very balanced, and Jimmy G's highly efficient, and he can take them to a certain level if he's healthy. That's just a really good team. D'Amico Ryans might be the best defensive coordinator in the game right now. No, I love Wink, and I'll always say he's number one, but D'Amico Ryans is knocking on the door.
Dan said he wouldn't play Madden right now because he's only gonna see people pick the Chiefs and the Niners every time.
I'm calling it now. It's going to be Giants, Niners in the conference
NFC
championship game,
championship?
Here we go.
and we're going to lose. And we're going to lose.
Yeah, we're gonna get our teeth kicked in.
But if we
That's
make
the
it, but if we
game.
make it that far, that's okay with me. I'm cool.
And listen, that's even if we make it in at 6 and we get a wild card game or something.
Oh no, we
and
have
even-
to now.
Like
Rob,
at that point,
that's the minimum right now. Like right now, the
I think
minimum
we're
is
winning- I
you
think
got to
we're
get the
winning
last
right
pick,
now. I
the
think
last
unless we
spot.
just bottom out,
right.
we're winning a minimum of 12 games.
A
Yeah.
minimum of 12 games.
I would say the minimum is 10. Still, the minimum is still 10.
10 to 12.
But
10 to 12.
but the minimum requirement is that you
only
get the
games
7th
that I see
seed.
us losing is potentially Philly twice
Right.
and Dallas. Everybody else, like,
Vikings kind of sort of scary.
Indy don't scare me. Maybe even with the Vikings, I think that's
Right.
still 12, right? 11, 12.
Yo, let me get y'all out of here, gents, because y'all got a family to go back to. So and we're almost running on 2 hours here. So I apologize on that behalf. But the podcast has been amazing. So thank you, Zero, for coming through. Mike and Sal, man, this shit has been amazing. But let's go ahead and talk predictions for this week. Sal, I'll go with you first. What is the score prediction for this week?
I think that Vegas continues to be wrong on the Giants. I understand.
Love
By
it.
the way, I think Vegas is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
The
They're supposed to
Giants
be
are
looking for
covering
wins.
every single game almost. Like it's crazy.
But they're because they're looking at analytics and rosters and running through algorithms, and they're saying this team shouldn't win these games, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it is. It's hard to account for lack of mistakes, good coaching, things like that. Doug Peterson's a good coach. We're coaching better. Trevor Lawrence is a very efficient quarterback. Our quarterback right now is more efficient. They have a good running game. Our running back is better.
Mhm.
Our running game is better. They have a good defense. Our defense is more opportunistic and makes bigger plays in big spots. So I think that this is actually a pretty tight game, but I don't think it's tight all the way through. I think it's a game where we lead most of the game, but we're kind of like just staying just ahead of the Jags, and I think we win it by just under a touchdown. I'm going to say Giants 23, Jags 17.
So before Mike goes, I just want to give a little nugget right here. If you have gambled on the Giants for this season, you have not lost money this year. You have not lost money this year. The spread right now for the Giants, the record is 3-0-3. So you have pushed 3 times, but you have not lost money. That is insane right now. Mike, give me your predictions of this week.
So, looking at this week, I want to pick the Jaguars, but I can't. I mean, I can't pick against them right now just because the way things have been going for them. The luck is on their side. They've had the ball bounce their way. They're not having the turnovers. Jones throws a pick in the end zone last week to Baltimore. We get a pass interference call that comes in that's questionable, that bails him out. They play Carolina. He throws a pick six right to the guy's chest. The guy drops the ball. Like, it just seems like everything that could go right for the Giants
It
has
is.
continued to go right. So I'm gonna end up picking the Giants this week. I don't feel good about it. I'll be honest. Like, I'm not confident
Right.
in picking them. I just don't see how, with the way things have been going for them, that they're going to end up losing this game right now. So I'm gonna pick them at this point. I'm thinking like a 20 to 17 type of game. I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
You know, or a 20 to 19 kind of. It's going to be a real close game. You know, I think that's what we're looking at. It's going to be a 1 or 2 point game.
And Zero, you
at
could
the
give the
most. It's not gonna be
McCaffrey. You could give the McCaffrey trade situation going on.
Yeah, so 49ers get McCaffrey. Panthers go ahead and they get a second rounder in 2023, a third rounder in 2023, a fourth rounder in 2023, and then an additional fourth rounder in 2024.
Yo,
Fifth
they,
rounder in 2024. That's a
So
Yeah,
the
2024.
49ers,
A
so
fourth
just to
rounder in
clarify real
2024.
quick, the 49ers now next season, entering next year's draft, have no
no,
one,
no 1, no 2,
two,
no 3, no
or
4.
4.
They are done. They are done for the first 4 rounds of
This is
next
it.
year's draft. This
Isn't
is by
that what
all
isn't that what the Ravens had this year or something? Like, didn't they have like no like pick
No,
until
they
like the
have-
third or fourth
That
round or
wasn't just
something?
that.
Holy
this is
shit.
this is by definition
All in.
for throwing it all in.
All
If
in.
the
All
49ers don't
crazy.
win the Super Bowl this year, after this,
So you got to
I
think
Lynch is
that
fired.
that the 49ers
fired.
are the front runners for Odell Beckham Jr. too.
John's
I
go-
wouldn't be
John's gonna be, John's gonna be on the phone tomorrow. Hey, what would you take for DJ Moore? He's gonna try to get DJ Moore. I'll take them all, baby. I'll
They
take
get
'em all.
they give up a lot, but they're going in. They're going all in.
and I'm going to tell you though, for Carolina
If
wins,
OBJ ends up in the 49ers, I am gonna be fucking
So-
sick.
He won't go to 49ers.
to be clear though, the biggest winner of this
Panthers.
is Carolina.
Panthers.
And the reason why it's
100%.
Carolina next year
They're gonna be resetting.
is going to enter. Carolina is going to finish as one of the worst 2 teams in football. Okay, so
They're bottoming
They're
out.
ready.
They're gonna be in the top 5 in the picks. Top 3 in the
they're going to
picks.
pick top 5. They're going to get a new coach. They're going to get a new GM. They're going to get a new quarterback.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
They got rid of a bloated running back salary
Yo,
that they were
they
going to be hamstrung by.
you can't fire that GM anymore. That GM just saved his job.
Correct. So you're talking about now going into next year for Carolina. They've got a young building block at left tackle. They've got young, good defensive players in Derek
got a
Brown
rookie
and
quarterback.
Burns. And say that again, Rob.
They're
They got
gonna
a rookie
have
quarterback?
a rookie quarterback.
No,
They
they've
got a
got
rookie
one.
quarterback.
Who?
They drafted one.
No,
They
no, no,
drafted
no,
one.
no, no. They're gonna get
They're
another
gonna
one,
draft
bro.
one.
They're gonna get another one.
They're going to draft a quarterback.
How was their
still-
guy? How was their guy? No, that's the Commanders guy, right?
And what did they get for Anderson? Was it a 6th and a 7th?
A 6 and a 7th, yeah.
So they got a 6th and a 7th.
They're gonna
next year.
have enough picks.
Bro,
They're probably gonna keep selling out their team. So if you're a Panthers fan right now, you're happy as hell right now, bro.
If you're a Panthers fan right now, I'm telling you right now, if they get this upcoming draft right for them, this is
Right.
a team that, because of where the NFC is in the landscape of quarterback aspiration,
I
and
still don't think
not
they could
a
go
lot of
from bottom to first next season, though.
100% can.
You
'cause
think so?
Brady's going to be shot. Brady's going to be shot. They're already
Brady's gonna be
seeing it.
gone.
Oh, you think in the
Atlanta-
division itself they could go?
Oh,
they
yeah,
could go
no.
last at
They-
first. Yeah, I agree
They're
with
going-
you. But
they're gonna go
but
last
are they going to
first.
be a? What I'm asking you is, well, it also depends, I guess, their coaching, because coaching
I'm going
is.
to tell you who they're. I'm going to tell you right now. Ready? Here's the bridge
Peyton.
quarterback. It's Daniel Jones.
Daniel
He goes back to
Jones
North-
is going to be
Goes
a
back
Carolina.
to North Carolina. He goes back to North Carolina where he went to
He
Duke.
will be their bridge. They will draft a rookie and sign Jones to be the starter initially, and he will be their bridge.
They have,
He will be the bridge.
but they're gonna cut Baker, and they're gonna.
Now we would get a. Do we get that third concession?
But for next year, we'll get
Do we
next
get it
year.
for 2023 or do we would it be for the next
It's
year?
2024.
2024.
You get it the year
Okay.
after.
Yeah.
You get it the year after. But if you're Carolina, yeah, that's a move. That's a move. That's a move where I could easily see that being the case, where they turn around and go, okay, we've got this loaded roster.
That's
We're
so
gonna draft
funny.
a rookie.
You got to think
And
Burns and
here we
DJ
are.
have to
That's
be. They have
amazing.
to be shopping those guys too. Burns, DJ.
Right.
The insanity of this trade is it just reeks of Kyle Shanahan, who really runs that organization. And this is the kind of stuff that
Hey, it's fuck them picks type of season in the NFC West.
this like shades of Mike Ditka trading his entire draft class for Ricky Williams. Like it's that kind of insanity. You don't see stuff like this. They broke discipline.
They're drunk right now,
they-
man. They doing that trade
It's
drunk
the, it's
right
the
now.
dog with the coffee mug with the whole apartment on fire.
Right,
Shanahan's
I mean,
sitting in the middle right now, while everything around him going, it's fine.
With all due respect, imagine doing all this just to run into Josh Allen, who's going to smoke you in the Super Bowl anyway. And that is what they're. One of my best friends, a 49ers fan, and he's, yeah. I mean, this is just amazing. Like I this is like disgusting trade. I'm sorry. Like good for the Panthers. But
Yeah.
John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan should be fired on the spot.
I don't think Shanahan will though. I think Shanahan is such a good coach that
I got
man
news
like
for you. They don't win the Super Bowl this year. They're fired
They're
on
both
the spot.
they're both
Yeah.
they're both fired.
both fired. It's
Yeah.
over for both of them.
Shanahan
Done.
gets a job tomorrow. Then.
I tell you what.
Shanahan
At-
becomes
at
the
a-
head coach in the Panthers.
Out of both of those,
How crazy would that be?
out of out of both
Set
of those
up his
guys,
future.
I think John Lynch stands a better chance of keeping his job. than Kyle Shanahan
No,
does.
no. Lynch is a pawn, bro. He's gone. He's gone. Yo,
Lynch is going to be gone for Adam Peters anyway, so I don't know. I don't know what this is, but like this is crazy. I mean, I guess they're going really all in, and they're hoping that somehow they're going to get to the Super Bowl, and they've got some magical game plan to stop Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. But my God, CMC is you couldn't beat us. You're going to beat Josh Allen,
it's crazy.
you know?
To be fair though, he did have Matt Rule and Ben McAdoo.
That's
and-
true. That's true.
Right.
It's a different scheme now. He's going into a premier
I know
running
the
back
pod's getting
scheme.
long.
Yeah,
I know it's
Zero.
getting
Give me.
long, but CMC's not. He's not at Saquon Barkley level. Okay, he's
No.
not the old CMC right now. He's a good player. He's
Yo,
not-
you know
he's
what
not-
though?
no, I don't know what quarterback is that. I don't know any running back that is that haul. Derrick Henry at his peak shouldn't have gotten that.
Sal, it's
That-
gonna be interesting to see what Shanahan is gonna do with this guy though, because he's gonna scheme the shit at this stuff.
If
Like,
CMC got
it's gonna
that,
get- gonna
can
get
you
sick.
imagine if we traded
Saquon.
Saquon? Like
Oh,
what
we
would
so
get?
now we know what Saquon is worth though.
No, you're only worth what somebody's willing to give you, and obviously the punch drunk guy in the room was John Lynch. You know, so
Zero,
I don't know if there's-
Give me your prediction for this week's game, and now I want Barkley traded. I'm mad.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yo, go ahead. Give me sign him for the 6-year contract.
They would have traded him if they were 1-5. Greg.
Nah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
nah.
probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Zero, give me your score for this week, brother.
I think this is going to be a game where I agree. Like, I think the Giants are going to need to be pretty physical. They're going to need to kind of jump off. And this is a game where I feel that with Wink and what he did the last couple of weeks against Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson, for him to go out there and get punked by Sunshine down there in Jacksonville
Sunshine.
would be embarrassing.
Right.
And I think that Wink is a better coach than Doug Peterson as far as from a scheming perspective.
Right.
Not taking away anything from Doug. I just think Wink is better. I think this is going to be a huge offensive performance for the Giants this week. I just have a feeling about that.
I like it.
I'm thinking 34-21 Giants.
Ooh.
34-21 Giants. I think Daniel throws 3 touchdowns. Barkley scores 1 on the ground, and Graham Gano kicks 2 field goals to keep it out of reach.
Alrighty. So
your expectation is a team that gives up 19 points per game is going to give up 34.
they're gonna.
Yes.
Well,
That's bold, Rob.
Well,
That's
no.
bold.
Well, I'll say this. The Jaguars have the last 3 games given up over 25 points per game. I think they're like 28 points per game the last 3 weeks. So they are, again, the Giants are going up and the Jaguars are crashing down.
We've been scoring 20, 24 plus points the last 2 or 3 weeks, or last 2 games. They've been allowing 27 plus the last 2 games.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now.
Um,
So they have allowed right now. They are 25 points per game allowed. Their season average has been 19 points, but they're giving up. They're a mess right now. And then their last game, they gave up 34 points in their last game. So, and that was to Matt Ryan, who doesn't have an arm.
If Matt Ryan with a noodle arm could throw
Yeah.
for 300 yards, he threw the ball 62 times.
So I'm not gonna jinx it.
Jesus Christ,
I'm not gonna jinx it, and I'm not gonna say because I said that we're gonna have statement games, and we've won those games, but we haven't made a statement yet. So I'm gonna just say this is gonna be a 17 points for the Jaguars, and we're gonna score 24 points. At 24-17 game, the Giants win this week. Right now, I can only think about what the hell.
I think Wandell is gonna have a big game.
Let's hope so. But yo, let me wrap this up, man. This has been an amazing podcast. Zero, go ahead and plug in your stuff, brother. Go do me the honor.
I appreciate that. So yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter Monday through Friday at about like 10:15 to 10:30. We host spaces. It's a mixture of good education and Jerry Springer.
Yes.
So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, come on by. I'd love to have you. And as far as from a content perspective, I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/R0B. As my, I don't know if my name is up there or not, but twitch.tv/R0B. I do a podcast with Pesty Analyst. We do that every Wednesday
Shout out to
at
Pest.
around 8 o'clock. So we do that. We talk Giants football. So anybody that's willing to come through, come and hang out. Antonio, love to have you on. Sal, Mike,
Definitely gotta come. Definitely gotta go, brother.
So yeah, come and hang out with us.
Mike, please do me the honors. Plug your Twitter handle and anything you want to plug in, bro.
I got nothing to plug, man. I just like
Plug your
jumping in
bicep. Plug your
Plug the
bicep.
biceps. Plug the biceps.
Having a good time with you guys, you know.
Where did they find you on
I'm
Twitter,
like
Mike?
public enemy #1 on Twitter right now. I'm
Facts.
Getting everybody's skin in the last 24 hours. Rob knows what that's like. I've gotten under his skin before too, so I'll wear on you after a bit. Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure. I love jumping on these things. With you guys.
Give me your Twitter handle, Mike.
Nah, it's just Mikey said 66.
All right, gotcha. And Sal, go ahead, brother, and plug your Twitter handle, brother.
He's sponsored by Home Depot.
I'm sponsored by Home Depot.
Shout out to Home Depot.
That's right. You need heavy duty construction boxes while the entire first level of your house is under construction. That's where you go. No, you can find me at Queens_guy. That's it on Twitter, and obviously I'll see you guys on Spaces and on Twitter, chopping it up with you guys.
Big shout out to everybody who came through in the chat. I appreciate y'all, man. We had a lot of people here, and I hope I'm gonna be clipping stuff and I'm gonna be posting on Twitter. It was pretty dope episode. I want to thank everybody all you three of you gentlemen that was here. And big shout out to Manny who's on the chat with us. My Agenda 58. He's one of the other co-hosts. Couldn't be with us tonight, but I'm BT Giants. I am Twitter Breaking Tackles Podcast BT Giants, and thank you so much everybody for being here. My prediction. Okay, I already give my prediction. Doesn't even matter, guys. Have a good one. Thank you so much everybody coming through. Peace. And